If you're a fan of the Witcher series, then a question you've probably asked yourself at some point is, will there be a Witcher 4? Well, developer CD Projekt RED has actually stated that Blood and Wine was intended to be the end of the Witcher series. So the short version is don't expect a Witcher 4 anytime soon, if ever. At the same time, the situation here is actually rather complicated, and I personally don't believe we can rule out the Witcher 4 as a possibility. So let's take a deeper look at what we know. Way back in 2013, a spokesperson for CD Projekt RED said, and I quote, "The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt will wrap up the saga of Geralt of Rivia, but we do leave open the possibility of returning to the Witcher world." CEO Adam Kaczynski also stated around the same time that the franchise would be continued. Then, in December of 2015, the CEO stated the following regarding the prospect of not doing a Witcher 4. "It wouldn't be fair to the fans. We worked within this universe for a dozen years now, and I don't think it's going to be the end of it." This obviously indicates that CD Projekt RED was open and perhaps even leaning towards making another Witcher game at the time. But taking a look at more recent quotes, we see their mindset has changed a little bit since then. In March 2016, co-founder Marcin Iwinski said, "I was asked about it before, whether there will be a Witcher 4. We love the world and are big fans of Andrzej Sapkowski's writings, but we don't have anything planned." Then, in May 2016, Iwinski made a few more statements that cast doubt on there being a Witcher 4 entirely. "We don't have anything planned as of now, to be honest, on the next Witcher. As we said before, never say never, but right now it's really Blood and Wine. This is the end. Blood and Wine is the closing, and there won't be any more Witcher anytime soon, if there will ever be one." Now, obviously the more recent quotations I shared are more reflective of CD Projekt RED's intentions. Meaning if there's anything we should expect, it's what Iwinski said in his most recent statement, that there won't be a Witcher 4 anytime soon, if ever. However, the reason why I shared all of these quotes is it shows CD Projekt RED is clearly conflicted to some degree. Different people within the company appear to be saying different things, and they're clearly hesitant on ruling out the idea of a Witcher 4 entirely. With this in mind, let's take a look at one more important thing. Now, either in late 2015 or early 2016, CD Projekt RED released a 6-year plan for the studio going forward. According to the plan, they are going to be releasing their new sci-fi RPG Cyberpunk 2077 sometime after 2017, and then another AAA title between 2017 and 2021. When asked about the second title, Iwinski said, "I can assure you we are not working on another Witcher." The reason I bring this up is whether or not we can expect a Witcher 4 might depend on the success of these two games. If they end up being extremely successful, CD Projekt RED may not feel the need to go back to the Witcher series. They could simply do sequels to Cyberpunk 2077 and their other game, while leaving the Witcher series on an extremely high note with The Witcher 3. On the other hand, if these two titles do not end up doing well, which I sincerely doubt, but let's say for a second they don't, then they may very well come back to the Witcher series and put out a Witcher 4. Also, this plan gives us a rough idea of their timeline. The way I see it, if they drew up a 6-year plan with no mention of a game that could possibly be The Witcher 4, the earliest we could get a Witcher 4 is 2021. And even that is pushing it, because if we take a look at the Witcher games, there's been about a 4-year break between each game. If Cyberpunk 2077 was released in 2017, which is by no means even close to guaranteed, and their next game was released 3 years later, then we would be looking at a 2023 or 2024 release date. Granted, CD Projekt RED has expanded quite a bit in recent years, but the point is that if a Witcher 4 is coming, it's not happening until at least the early 2020s. Finally, let's talk about potential storylines for The Witcher 4. Geralt's story is over, meaning the next game would have to focus on a different protagonist. Ideally, this protagonist would be someone prominent in The Witcher 3, so as to attract fans who play the game. The most obvious choice is Ciri. If Ciri were the protagonist of a hypothetical Witcher 4, the game could center around her journey as a Witcher. Or perhaps some new evil has arisen, possibly from another world like with the Wild Hunt, and it's Ciri's job to confront this evil. Speaking of other worlds, if Ciri were the protagonist, I believe the other worlds that she's capable of traveling to would play a much bigger role in the story than in The Witcher 3. In particular, it's possible we could get a lot more on the world of the NL. There's already a pretty good basis for this world as it is covered in Sapkowski's books, so it could function well as a secondary setting. The biggest problem with Ciri as the protagonist is her fate was left up to the player in The Witcher 3, so having her alive and as a Witcher in The Witcher 4 could kind of ruin The Witcher 3's multiple endings. With this in mind, the second choice that makes sense as a protagonist for The Witcher 4 is Vesemir. This game would of course have to be set in the past, but a young Vesemir would make a very good protagonist in my opinion. The continent would also probably be very different a couple hundred years ago in Vesemir's youth, so it could serve as a nice reset to the Witcher series in a way. I'm sure that there are other possibilities as well, but those are what come to mind right now. To sum up, we shouldn't expect a Witcher 4, but it's also not entirely out of the question. And again, even if it is happening, we won't be seeing the game for at least 5 or 6 years. I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it to be informative. If so, be sure to leave me a like down below and feel free to check out some of my other videos. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in my next video.